So welcome everyone to the Safe Routes to School Parent Meetup. It's our first event of this kind. We wanted to host this event to really get a bigger turnout of more parents in our communities, and not just Cupertino, but also Sunnyvale and surrounding communities that all are working together on similar interrelated traffic issues, and with the goal of getting more kids out on walking and biking and out of the car. So this event is really exciting. I'm Chelsea Biklen. I'm the Safe Routes to School Coordinator for the City of Cupertino.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Norma O'Connell. I'm the Safe Routes to School Coordinator for the City of Sunnyvale. I'm here with the Department of Public Safety. We are just starting our program. It's very much in its infancy at Sunnyvale, so we're piggybacking a lot off of Chelsea and learning a lot from her, and hope to reach out to as many parents as we can and get both cities working together, especially with a lot of the schools that have both Sunnyvale and Cupertino residents alike. So if you have any questions, I'll be here for a couple minutes afterwards, and I have a couple cards as well.
Thank you, Norma. Thank you, Chelsea. Welcome, everyone. I'm Savita Vaidhyanathan. I'm the mayor of the City of Cupertino. I'm so thankful to all of you for being here today. It really shows you love your community because you want your kids healthy and happy and safe. And that's what our priority is too. I would like to recognize a few elected officials here. We have from the Cupertino Union School District, Liang. Where's Liang? She was here. There she is. And Kirsten. Thank you for being here. We have Fremont Union High School District represented by Eric, and I'm expecting Hung Wei and Jeff Moore to show up too. We have our Public Safety Commissioner, Jerry. There he is. Hi, Jerry. And we have our head traffic guy, David. Thank you for being here. And of course, we have the man in uniform that nobody should miss. Thank you for being here. Any other electeds that I'm missing? Okay, and as they come in. Oh, Leslie Means. Hi, Leslie. I just spoke with you. And of course, we have guests from Palo Alto who will be introduced later. When we talk about what the city can do with parents, what we can do is provide the infrastructure, provide the means for you to use. But if those means are not used, then what we do is, frankly, it's of absolutely no importance if we don't have that collaboration with the parents and the children. And we have seen success in other cities, and we are hoping that that success breeds success in our community too. I'm hoping that we get enough information today that makes our parents happy and satisfied and relieved that their children can take the safe routes to school and actually get to school safely. And if we achieve that, I think we'd be successful. So thank you very much for being here today. I'm looking forward to a great program, and please keep your questions ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Also, I just want to point out that if you're sitting in the back row, you might not have all the handouts. We have about 4 handouts, a pen, and a window decal on the chairs kind of closer to the front. So if you could just move closer to the front, because later we will be using those. And I also just wanted to reemphasize that the main reasons we're here today are to really strengthen the partnerships between our city staff and our communities, and to really get to know each other better. And also to make sure that we have more parent participation in our Safe Routes to School program, and to kind of make everyone more aware of what's going on, because there's huge potential for what we can do if we work together. So with that, I'm going to bring up our Palo Alto guest speakers today. So we have Penny Ellson and Rosie Mesterhazy.
Okay, you ready for me to just start?
You could just introduce yourself, and then I'm going to do it.
So, as you just heard, I'm Penny Ellson. I am a member of the Palo Alto Council of PTAs Traffic Safety Committee, and I'm here today with my counterpart from the City of Palo Alto, Rosie Mesterhazy. She's actually part of a team in the Transportation Division at the city, and we'll let Rosie kind of speak for herself, because she's very good at that.
Thank you. Well, thanks everyone for coming out today. This is a really great turnout, and I'm so excited for your community and the potential that it holds to help increase, to help advance what I like to call mobility skills for the 21st century for our children. Give them the tools that they need to grow, to thrive, to be healthy, and make an impact on the world. So I'm so glad that you're all here today to do that. As Penny mentioned, I've been in the Safe Routes movement for more than 10 years at the local, the regional, the state, and the national level. So I've seen it from the grassroots view and from kind of a bird's eye view. And it's a fascinating program with implications in engineering and public health and education. You're really just doing so much just by coming here and showing an interest in something that can help really make a huge difference in the world. So thank you for that. I'm also a biking mom, and so I do my best to walk the talk, as they say, because the proof is in the pedaling. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chelsea.
All right.
So I'm just going to take a few minutes here to warm up the crowd and let you guys get to know each other a little bit. So can you turn to the person next to you and just answer one or two of these questions together? And then we'll get back to the presentation. All right. Did everyone share some good memories with each other? So can I get a couple people to share their answers? What was someone's first bicycle memory? Anyone have a bicycle memory to share?
I can't help it. It was such a good.
What was your first bicycle memory?
I am so old. I hate to tell you this story, but I was born a long time ago. And when I was little, I had a tricycle, but then I got a bicycle when I was 9, and it was an English bike called a Rudge. Now, some people here may remember that. It was one of the first ones with handbrakes. And I was so excited about that bike, and we had a garage that was a distance from the house. It was outside. Wouldn't let my parents put it in the garage. I would not do it. I cried and screamed. They had to keep it in the dining room for a month until I got over that. And I rode it all the way through college. But my grandchildren who live in Santa Cruz bike to school all the time. This is something I'm very interested in. And I'm working for KT Urban, by the way. We're looking at the Oaks Shopping Center. We're putting in bike routes. We really believe in what you're doing. That's why I'm here today. So that's my bicycle story.
That's a great story. That was a great story. Thanks for sharing. Does anyone else want to share a memory or why they came here today? Charlene, I'll bring it on over to you.
I just want to share this memory, and actually Liang reminded me of it. My first bicycle memory is I was just a preschooler. I didn't bike yet, and I grew up in Taipei, where it's kind of a busy city. And my mom has 3 little kids. I'm the middle one, and we're all within like a 3-year range, so we were all preschoolers. To get anywhere, we had to go on the one bike that my mom was riding because we didn't have a car, and she put us all 3 on it somehow. Like someone was on the handlebar, someone was in the back, and maybe she was holding. And then we'd go grocery shopping, and she would buy groceries, and then we would bike back home. And on top of that, it rains a lot, so sometimes it was raining, she would have an umbrella. So that was my bicycle memory.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right, well, thanks, everyone. And we're going to get started in our special presentation today. So I'm going to bring up Penny. And do you have the other mic?
Oh, right here.
Right there. Awesome.
It's on.
All right. Thank you for that. Okay. Are we ready?
And here you go.
Okay. So we've all been introduced, so I'm not going to go through that bit of the presentation. What we're going to talk today, what Chelsea's asked me to talk to you today about is the Safe Routes to School partnership in Palo Alto, and especially the PTA's role in really the successful rolling out of a long-term Safe Routes to School program. I always start with a little history because a lot of people don't know that 30 years ago, 66% of America's kids were walking and biking to school, and that has really changed. Today, depending on the data source you look at, it's 12 to 17%, and Palo Alto was not immune to that change. In fact, if you look at our data, our bike counts in about 1985, they were around 10%. So we dropped like everybody else. Why is that? Well, there are a lot of reasons for it. We're an affluent country, and we have a lot of multi-car families, which makes it really easy to drive. But we also have been we have automobile and fossil fuel industries that have lobbied heavily for a transportation system that really prioritizes the efficient movement of motor vehicles over the other road users on the street. And that's kind of resulted in a road environment that feels very unfriendly to children and really everyone else. It's community changing. And all of this has kind of led to that cultural change, the habit we all have as Americans of picking up our car keys every time we leave the house. Habits are changeable. We just have to start thinking about them and being mindful about what we're doing. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. Fear of abduction is something you're going to hear about when you start talking to parents. And I'm not really sure what fuels this. I think some of it might be shows like CSI and Criminal Minds. But I also think we see a lot of sensationalized headlines. Those rare abductions really do get kind of blown up in the media. In fact, if you start looking at statistics, you understand pretty quickly that children are far more likely to get really seriously hurt riding in a car than they are to be abducted, especially if they're walking to school in groups, as we recommend. We've seen a big growth in dual career and single parent families, and these folks are super busy. And so the PTA in Palo Alto has kind of made it our special mission to help them think about their transportation options, to elevate in their minds other opportunities other than driving to school, and help them see that maybe bicycling to school might be more efficient for them. And then finally, there actually are a lot more cars on the streets. That's real, and you're going to hear this from parents when you're talking to them. You're going to hear people say, I am not going to let Johnny ride a bike to school. There are too many cars out there. It feels dangerous to me. Well, Rosie and I are kind of wonky, and so is David Stillman back there. We spend a lot of time looking at traffic data, and I can tell you that the vast majority of the car trips on school routes during school commute times are parents driving kids to school. We are the traffic. This is something that we can solve if we work together. In Palo Alto, there were some local factors that affected the reduction in kids walking and biking to school. In the 70s and 80s, we had school closures as a result of enrollment reductions, and we also created some magnet schools, which widened the attendance boundaries of our remaining neighborhood schools. So today, we had 22 elementary schools. Today, we have 12. We have much wider attendance boundaries, longer walking distances for families, and that makes school commuting challenging. Our school routes weren't designed for high volumes, but what happened is in the early 90s, our enrollment started going back up. And all of a sudden, we saw very intensified bell time surges, lots of congestion. And I was listening to some of you today, and what I heard is that you're really experiencing things like that, especially around your high schools. And that's also the case in Palo Alto. All of this affects kids. You know, when all of these things were happening in the 70s, 80s, and 90s in Palo Alto, parents started looking at how this was affecting our community, and especially our children. And we realized that we had taken an awful lot away from them. We had taken away that freedom that we all enjoyed. The freedom that I had when I was 8 years old, and I would ride my bicycle with a group of friends into town to a candy shop. You know, that kind of independence that enabled kids to move around all on their own and build a sense over time to pass milestones of independence through transportation, transporting themselves, and self-reliance. These things are an important part of growing up, and we had taken that away. And also, you may not know, but this generation of American kids is going to be the first in decades with a projected shorter lifespan than their parents because they're getting less exercise and their diets aren't as good. This is something we need to work on, and integrating exercise into their daily transportation is one way we can do it. There's wonderful new research out on how walking and biking to school helps kids be better prepared to learn in school. So we're seeing that kids perform better on tests. Okay, no big deal, right? But we also are learning that kids who have to navigate the community on their own are learning spatial reasoning just through the act of moving around independently. And on top of that, the kids who are super high energy come into the classroom, teachers tell us, better prepared to learn because their sillies are out, their energy's, you know, up, and they're ready for the classroom experience, and they've made a nice transition to school. Environmental stewardship would seem obvious, but when we introduced Earth Day programs in Palo Alto, we discovered that global warming really looms quite large for a lot of kids. And the fact that they can make a significant dent collectively in the emissions of our community by walking and biking to school actually resonated with them quite a lot. I was surprised by that. We do a lot of practicing with our kids. We teach them good table manners, you teach, repeat all the time. We teach them math facts, we drill them on this kind of stuff. And we forget sometimes that walking and biking with kids is a teachable moment. It's an opportunity every single day at every single intersection to practice with your kid intersection, how to make eye contact with drivers, how to look left, look right, look left again. You want to hardwire those skills as a parent. And one thing I talk to parents about all the time is do this on a daily basis. Get out there at least once a week, if you can, with your child. In elementary school, don't wait till middle school, because you want this kid to be independent by the time he's in 3rd grade. And this last one is my favorite. I walked to school every single day with my girls in elementary school, and there were 2 things that I got out of it. One is, if I was quiet and I just listened to them, something about the rhythmic motion of walking made them unself-conscious about sort of processing out loud how their day went. And if I listened, I learned an awful lot about what they were thinking and feeling that I never heard any other time. And the other thing that happened is I connected with their friends and their friends' parents. And those relationships carried me in my parenting from elementary school to middle school to high school. I still rely on those relationships for all kinds of things. Mom, Natalie's having a party, can I go? Is there gonna be a grown-up home? I don't know. Oh, okay, I'll give her mom a call. That's the kind of thing you need in high school, and you cultivate that if you're not doing the fly-by drop-off in the morning in your car. So let's go back to the 80s and 90s. We saw all of this falling apart for our kids in the PTA. And so PTAs started reaching out to their electeds, and they reached out to city staff to talk to them about what the problems were on the street that we were seeing and looking for feasible solutions. So we kind of went to staff first. The PTA, not me, I wasn't involved at the time, but PTA went to staff first. They developed white papers to explain the problem, and then they went to staff asking for solutions. And then, after they had some ideas about what to ask for, they started reaching out to their electeds. How many people in this room have cultivated a personal relationship with your school board members and city council members? Raise your hand. Wow. Okay, this is something y'all need to work on. These are important relationships because your elected representatives are the key decision makers in your community about what kind of road environment you're gonna have, your kids are gonna have, and they're the key decision makers about what kind of traffic safety programs you're gonna have in your schools. And they also need to know that you have their back. You heard your mayor back in the back of the room there say a few minutes ago, she wants to help you, but she needs you to help her. So this is a partnership. And that's sort of what happened in these early days in Palo Alto. We developed a partnership with our city and our school district. We advocated for change, and our staff and our school district responded. So in Palo Alto, what you might ask is, what shape does this partnership take? Most of our work gets done at a monthly meeting of the City School Traffic Safety Committee. And Chelsea, I know that you have a committee very like this, so I'm going to describe ours, and Chelsea's going to share with you what your committee looks like. So ours has representatives from the Palo Alto Police Department, the Transportation Division, and from the school district, central office administrators, depending on who we need what week, and site principals. And then we have Safe Routes to School champions in the PTA at every school site. So if your school's on the agenda and you're the volunteer from that school site, you're supposed to go. And we also have a Palo Alto Council of PTAs Traffic Safety Committee chairs who are the direct reports to our district-wide PTA, which I imagine you have here as well, yes? Mm-hmm. So Chelsea, why don't you talk about your committee?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, we actually modeled our Safe Routes to School program after Palo Alto's Safe Routes to School program, and the program is just over a year and a half old. So the format that ours takes is a working group meeting once a month, which is composed of a lot of parents from our 14 different Cupertino schools, as well as district representation from our CUSD and FUHSD school districts, and principals whenever they can make a meeting, principals or assistant principals. But the meetings are also welcome to really any community member that's interested in getting involved in Safe Routes to School. We have people come from Walk by Cupertino, from both school boards. So it's really kind of a community effort, and we have sheriff's presence as well. So can you raise your hand if you come to those Safe Routes to School working group meetings? I recognize a lot of your faces here.
Wow, a lot of hands.
Yeah, so we have a lot of you guys in the room. This is Safe Routes to School, really, and we're looking to really build that with more parents. Penny mentioned a Safe Routes to School champion at each school, and that's something that we're trying to build here. So I'll talk about that a little more towards the end of the meeting, but we kind of are still going towards that Palo Alto model, but really looking to make those connections on school campuses with parents.
So you guys are working on making sure that you get one champion for each school site. That's a task that everybody's going to leave this room and take on, right? Because it's important. Having those representatives in your PTA, having a established institutionalized position that gets filled every year is going to be very, very important to make this program move forward successfully. In Palo Alto today, we have a Safe Routes to School champion at every one of our 17 school sites, but at many of those sites, we now have teams, because it's a lot more fun when people are working in groups together, and we see a lot more energy at the school sites where we have that kind of group working. And I would like to say that one of the really wonderful things about this kind of committee, Sylvia Starlack, Rosie's partner at the City of Palo Alto, likes to say this committee is really our secret sauce. This is what makes it all work. Once a month, we get together, and we are not just, sort of listening to complaints and solving the problems. One of the things this committee does is we really think strategically and long-term. Your city and school district have very limited resources. They cannot solve all of your problems immediately. But what you can do is work together with your city staff, your city council, your school board, and make long-term plans and support your city staff and your city council members as they try to roll those plans out. That's our job as PTA reps, and I'm going to get more into that in a minute. So how did all this work? Up to 2006, things were working really well. Like we kind of had the partnership rolling, and we could really show good results for those efforts. You can see that the first two bars there are the national numbers that I showed you earlier, and this is Palo Alto actually in 2006, not today, which is what it says up there. It's an old slide that I plunked in there. But we had 44% of our elementary school kids using foot-powered transportation by that time, and another 10% using carpooling or busing. So we still had 46%. We felt at that point like we had kind of picked the low-hanging fruit, and we really needed to start working a little harder. And so the PTA went to work again to advocate. And this time, we asked the city and the school district to formalize a partnership, to create something more robust. In 2006, both agencies signed a partnership agreement that we would all work together using what was then the 4 E's. Does everybody know what the 4 E's is? Raise your hand if you know what it is. When I say 4 E's? Okay, I need to explain it. All right, so 4 E's: education, enforcement, engineering, encouragement. And we added after that a 5th E, which was evaluation. We wanted to make sure that we were collecting data to see that we were being effective. And then just recently, this year, we added a sixth E, which is equity. So I'm going to go through these and kind of explain to you how we do all this. But every problem that our committee works on, we work on in a very comprehensive way, using all 6 E's to sort of tackle the problems. Engineering is not going to solve every problem. When you put a new sharrow down, you got to educate the drivers and the bicyclists how to use a sharrow. What's a sharrow, right? Or if you have a problem, an enforcement problem that the police make you aware of, the kids are doing something they shouldn't be doing, a lot of times you can just use education to solve these problems of human behavior. So we started all working together comprehensively. The idea was to reduce risk to students, of course, but also to encourage more people to choose alternatives to solo driving. This is what your mayor's talking about back there. So we do this, so here's the 6 E's. In Palo Alto, our kids get a pretty comprehensive course of traffic safety education in K through 12. Starting in kindergarten, they get pedestrian safety education for K through 2nd grade, each year sort of layering on new learning and reviewing the learning they got the previous year. Rosie, do you want to do this bit? Because this is kind of your bailiwick. So Rosie, I want to just explain how this works in Palo Alto. Rosie organizes this for us. So we have a City of Palo Alto employee who works with school district staff and PTA. The PTA turns out about 20 volunteers for every one of these events. And Rosie is the rodeo organizer. You want to go on?
The rodeo clown, I like to say. You know, the beauty of education is that it also aligns with that equity goal in the 6 E's. Because when you're educating all of the 3rd graders, for example, with our bike rodeo, you're teaching them these lifelong healthy habits, and everyone, it's coverage for all. And so it's not just exclusive to the kids who have bicycles, or it's not an opt-in kind of program just for those with the resources to do it, but it's something that every 3rd grader walks away with. And what's so important about it starting in 3rd grade is that that's just when they start riding with their parents. We have to start early. Penny was talking about the parent involvement, and really I've seen these Safe Routes to School programs all across the country. I've done this work, but this legacy that the parents have left, I think, is 90% of the reason why this program is so impactful and effective in Palo Alto. So education forms kind of the base, right? So all of the kids are getting this information. They're getting the K-2 pedestrian safety skills class with safe moves. Then they're getting our 3rd grade rodeo, which is like planning 12 weddings at the same time. It's a lot of work. It's a huge partnership from the community. About 17 to 30 parents volunteer for every one of these. And it's a social thing, and it's fun. And so they get into it because they do this every year. We make it a good time, and they feel like they're really doing something with the kids. So we have that figured out. Then we get into 5th grade and our traffic safety refresher, also information as they transition to 6th grade. And then we're really excited this year, where we had a pilot last year called Getting to Schools to help our 8th graders learn how to get to high school and learn about what's available at the different high schools. And so now we're expanding that offering to all of our middle schools as well. So in addition to student education K-8, we also have parent education. We have our Bringing Up Bicyclists class taught by Sylvia. I'm a league certified instructor. She's a league certified instructor. So we outreach to parents periodically throughout the year as requested. And then we're even expanding our offering to biking with your toddler. I have a 2-year-old. And so there are daycare centers, and I mean, the earlier you can sell parents on biking, and walking, biking, carpooling, or using transit to get student to school, I think the better the results you're going to get.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in, we're hoping to build a similar model here in Cupertino. Just this past year, we've added the Drive Your Bike assemblies to all of our 6th grade schools in Cupertino, but we are really hoping to get that education started at a younger age. So I just want to make all of you aware that we have the resources to do this education, but like Penny and Rosie said, it's a big community effort, and it takes parent volunteers, and it takes time and commitment from everyone. But we do have all the resources available, and I am here to help you organize.
There are a couple things. You look at this comprehensive program and you say, holy smokes, how can they do all that? You know, but first of all, when we started out, David Stillman was working for the city of Palo Alto. Yay, David, we miss you. He was working for the city of Palo Alto back in the day. And we won't take him, I promise. He's all yours, but we do miss him, and you're lucky to have him. When David was working with us, we had a lot. There was not such a comprehensive program. This is something that's built up over time as families have become interested, as we've kind of, and you'll see as we get through this presentation how things have changed and why our education program really needed to evolve. And I also want to say that this did not happen without PTA advocacy. Again, it took the parents going out. So what's a PTA? The primary role, the historical mission of the PTA is parents and teachers advocating for the health, safety, and welfare and education of children. That is our primary mission. It is not fundraising, it is not parties. It is advocating for the health, wealth, well-being, and safety and education of our children. That is our job. And that is actually our individual jobs as parents, as I see it, living in a democracy, right? Our kids can't vote, but we can. So it's our job to get out there and make sure that the resources of our community are being spent in a way that is meaningful to families. So Rosie touched on a piece that I want to make sure we talk about. When you're doing all this stuff, engage the parents, because it's fun. These are community events, right? That bike rodeo, she does an amazing job organizing it. She'll totally undersell herself when she talks about it, but I want to say that she's mobilizing hundreds of people all over the district. That bike rodeo is a highlight of our third graders' year. They all talk about it. They write those essays at the end of the year. What did you enjoy about this year? Invariably, the story is something about the bike rodeo because they come out of this so proud. You saw those pictures, right? The kids and the parents learn so much. It's wonderful, right? They see their kids get on these bicycles at the beginning of the program. We focus on those top 5 skills kids need to learn to avoid the accidents that kids get really injured in, right? And when they first start, at the beginning of the day, they can't get their hands off the handlebars because they're all wobbly, right? And then by the end of the day, they're signaling a little more confidently. They know how to look. They know how to enter traffic from between parked vehicles safely. They learn a lot of stuff that day. And guess what? Their parents learn. Their parents learn, my kid is competent. My kid can learn this stuff, and my kid can get out there and be safe. And they learn this on the safety of a playground yard. And then finally, we use every single tool the PTA has, and I know you have them too. You have school handbooks, you have websites, you have newsletters and e-news. I know you have this in Cupertino because I checked. And you use every single one of these things to get the word out to the parents in your district. Engineering. Okay, David's here. I'm going to tell you that I think you may have been involved in the creation of this picture because this is Charleston Arostadero project that David and I worked on together many years ago. The city, of course, in Palo Alto is responsible for public street safety, and the school district is responsible for school site safety. Where those two sets of routes come together, you need these people together at a table. Okay, and that's not a thing that happens naturally. That happens if their constituents, the school district and the city have common constituents, and they are you. They will come to that table if you ask them to, and they will cooperate if you ask them to, but if you're not asking them, they're very busy, each of them in their own little silos. Okay? And your school district is going to create a driveway that might create spillback on your arterial street, that is going to create road rage, that's going to make it feel unsafe to your bicyclist. Okay, so they need to be working together, and you need to be at the table with them, talking with them all. Our job, the PTA's job, is to inform, to provide information, to collaborate, to listen, to our electeds and to listen to our staff about what's really feasible and possible with the limited resources available, and to advocate. I spend time in finance committee meetings. I hate those meetings. But they're important, because if you don't get the money in the budget at the finance committee meeting, then it won't be in the budget when it goes to your city council for approval. This is advocacy. We do all this stuff to work together with our staff. When your police department needs more money for a traffic team, guess who they come to? Okay? Advocacy. All right, so engineering. I'm not going to go through this whole list here, but I do want to hand the mic to Chelsea for a minute, because you guys have a walking survey going on right now that I think you want to point out.
Yes, we actually, our traffic team has just last year updated our bicycle transportation master plan, and right now we're working on our pedestrian transportation plan. So we are looking for feedback from everyone in the community on what you want to see in this pedestrian plan. So if you take a look at the URL on the slide, if you go to cupertino.org/ped, that it will lead you to two links. One is a interactive mapping tool where you can look at different parts of the city and comment on what you'd like to see as a pedestrian, and another one is a feedback survey. So this is exactly the time to chime in and let us know what you're looking for so that you can directly impact what's going to be changed in the city. So I just wanted to bring that up while we're talking about engineering.
Encouragement. So this is really the PTA's bailiwick, this one. We do 2 major district-wide events every year, one in October and one in the spring, to kick off the spring bicycling season. The purpose of these events is to create a huge, fun community event that brings people out bicycling and walking together, and a couple of things come out of this. One is that, we're obviously promoting the benefits of walking and biking, but it gives people the opportunity to see those benefits on the ground. So if you can get 20% of the families at your school site to choose walking and biking on a single day, it will transform your street. It will transform your campus environment, and it will be noticed. People will have a different experience on their way to school because there will be a lot fewer cars. 20% is a lot. Okay, so I get comments from parents who will try this and they'll say, holy smokes, I now understand what is possible. This is important to help people see that. And then the second thing that comes out of this is you're asking people to just try it for one day. And a lot of times, remember I talked about those busy parents, they don't really think about the possibilities because they don't have time. They're not being evil, they're not being lazy, they just don't really have time. And it kind of seems like driving would be faster, right? But then one day, they get on their bike, and they discover that that 1.5-mile journey to school and back to their house is actually faster than sitting in that line of traffic, that horrible, you know the one I'm talking about, and doing that fly-by drop-off that's so uncomfortable, prevents you from meeting your school community, insulates your child with your kid passively strapped into the back seat of a car, pecking at an iPhone. This is not an experience we want our kid to have every day. All right, enforcement. All right, we have an officer back here, and I want to say these folks are our best partners. They are boots on the ground. They come to our meetings and they give us a lot of information about what our kids are doing. So part of my job and the engineering team's job is to listen and to hear what they're saying. Sometimes they'll come to us with a behavior problem that we need to work on with some education and encouragement. Sometimes they'll come to us with something that sounds like an engineering issue. But we always apply all 6 of our E's to make sure every problem gets solved. Police officers in Palo Alto are also teachers. I mean, they hand out tickets, of course, and we encourage them to ticket kids who are breaking the law. But they also use each interaction with a child as a teachable moment. So we have many opportunities to talk with them in our city school traffic safety committees about the effective ways to do that. We have 29 crossing guards provided by our police department in Palo Alto. We have kids crossing El Camino Real to get to school. They need a guard. And I know that in Cupertino, I think you told me of 16 crossing guards citywide. Did you want to add to that? Okay. And when a student gets a ticket in Palo Alto, they don't pay that ticket because, who's going to pay that ticket? Mom and dad, right? Not an appropriate repercussion. Instead, just like Cupertino, our students get sent to a juvenile diversion program, which is essentially traffic safety school on a Saturday, and boy, does that make them mad. But it's exactly what they need, isn't it? They got a ticket for doing something wrong on the street. It's an appropriate repercussion. Equity is that E that we added this year, and we've always worked toward inclusiveness in our programs, but I'm glad we added this E because this year I find now that it's part of our comprehensive mix, we're paying more attention to it. The city's working now on translating a lot of our literature that we use for teaching traffic safety. And we've really put more emphasis this year on getting helmets to kids who can't afford them. The high school kids are working on a program to refurbish bicycles to get them out to kids who need them. And we're putting more emphasis on these kinds of programs, and I feel like that's gonna probably, now that it's one of our E's, we're probably gonna be working harder on that. That's a good thing. So how's it all working, you might ask? So these are our high school bike counts. I'm the Gun High School Safe Routes to School champion. I have a district-wide role, but I also am the champion for one school. And the red lines that you're seeing there are my high school. Back in 2002, 10% of gun children, or students, they're not children, high school, 10% of gun students were bicycling to school. That amounted to about 130 kids a day. Today, 44% of gun high school students are bicycling to school. That amounts to 830 kids per day. That is a big change. We're excited about it. It's happening at both of our high schools. We're seeing on average about 2% a year increase. We've had a little leveling off while we've been under construction in the last couple of years, but we're expecting that that trend will continue because you can see at our middle schools we have a very similar trend line that we're excited about. So, now that we've had all this great success, what do we do next? We've created something we call Safe Routes to School 2.0. When you have 830 kids a day arriving at a school in 20 minutes during the bell time surge, some new problems emerge. And we weren't really expecting this. We didn't know it was coming. There are some things we're sort of scrambling to do now. We are developing some new bus and shuttle options. We have a City of Palo Alto shuttle, and at Gun High School, there's a VTA bus that happens to go by our high school. So we've been really promoting use of the bus, and VTA is happy with us about that. And we also have to address some new problems. You can see from this photograph that when you have, what happens is, like the kids get behind a stoplight, right? They all stop. There's 5, there's 10, there's 20, now we have 50 kids in a pack, right? And the light goes green, and all of a sudden they're swarming across the street, and you're like, whoa, we need to teach them how to ride in a group. This is a new thing. So now we have a new program in our high schools, and we're working on teaching kids how to ride in groups. New sets of skills, but they can do it because they've been doing it right along. They really are learning how to do this safely. In addition to that, we've had to develop, some new facilities on our school campuses. There are some nice grant programs for improving bicycle parking. And as we've gone to parking, 830 bikes, we're actually planning for 1,000 right now at Gun because we're planning that the growth will continue and we're expanding our high school. So more bike parking is going in this summer. We're working with professional people to help us, make sure that the traffic flow and our bike parking works. Because remember, 830 kids coming in 20 minutes on bikes, right? So you got to make sure those bikes are parked well, that they can move through there safely and securely. And also you have to make sure that your bike parking is well connected to the places that they want to go on campus. So we're really thinking about how do we integrate bike parking and new pathways, and we're widening pathways on our campuses. To the school district representatives who are here, I want to say, this sounds expensive, but in fact, not so much. It's actually a cost savings. Because guess what we get to do with our automobile parking now? We are building academic buildings on our old automobile parking. And we can do that because we basically got a land bonus because we're moving kids to bikes. And that is a bottom line win for the school district. Well, this is not showing up very well. It's a much nicer picture than that in real life. So one of a brainchild, and I want to fully credit the city of Palo Alto for this one. The city got a grant to do a walk and roll mapping process. They went, with the help of the PTA, they went out to all of our schools, they talked to students and parents and administrators about how kids are getting to school, the routes that they choose and the problems that they might be having on the way to school. And they created 2 sets of maps. For each school, there was a recommendations map, and on that map, they wrote down all the improvements that, together they as a group identified that needed to be made over the next, 10 years or so. And then a second set of maps we called the walk and roll maps. Each school site has a custom map that's given to parents, both on the website and lots of electronic means, but also we have paper copies that go out in back to school packets. And these maps, you can see, show parents that the route you take to school when you're walking or biking might be a different route from the one you use when you're driving. As a bicyclist or a pedestrian, you're looking for a route where there's a crossing guard, or a sidewalk and a crosswalk, a bike lane, signalized intersections. This map shows parents where they're going to find all of those wonderful resources. And that route is going to be a very different map from the route. You're not going to see the driving route highlighted on these maps. And then when they get to school, there's a second inset map that says to the parent, and this is where you're going to direct your child to park their bike, and this is the path that they should take to get safely to their classroom with a minimum of conflict with motor vehicles on campus. So we're basically, and on the reverse side of this map, we have a set of traffic safety tips that we ask parents to review with their kids at the beginning of the school year. Back to school packets, that's where that goes. All right, so in a nutshell, there's way more to it, lots of details, but in a nutshell, that's the program. And I want to close with one thing. Did I forget to include anything that you wanted me to include?
Well, I will just mention that we're working on similar walk and roll maps for each of our schools through a community process. So we've been partnering with schools one at a time, working with our city's GIS team and with the school itself to identify the routes that students are walking and biking to school, then going over it with our traffic team to create a final mapping tool that will show, for each school, that will show the suggested walk and roll maps to school. So I can actually, since I have them here, show you kind of the beginning stages of what that looks like. So for each school, we've created an attendance boundary map that shows where students are coming from. So this, it's a little bit hard to see for those of you in the back, but this is Cupertino High School's attendance boundary zone. It's the orange shading. So this shows where everyone's coming from. This was created by our city GIS department. And then I'm working with some parents that are here today in the room to survey all the students at Cupertino High School during school on campus about which routes they're taking. So they're going to trace how they're getting to school via walking and biking. And then with the school community as well as our city, we're going to review and then create a final map in our GIS program that will have a suggested walk and roll map. So that is the process that we're taking here in Cupertino. We've already surveyed Lincoln Elementary, Sedgwick Elementary, and Kennedy Middle School, as well as Homestead High School, and they're working on their map right now. And then I am hoping to work with the rest of the schools. We have attendance boundary maps for every school. So again, this is a great project for parents to get involved in because we do need on-site help to get the survey information from students. And I'm gonna come and hand you the mic for your question.
I want to add one thing while she's doing that, which is building teams is going to be really important for y'all. I know that you have that your school district crosses multiple jurisdictional boundaries. Is there anybody here who's from the city of Sunnyvale? Raise your hand. Okay. So you guys, point people right there. Are you making a note? The rest of you, these are your Sunnyvale people. If you want to reach across boundaries and you want to get the kind of collaboration across boundaries, you need to reach out to your neighbors in Sunnyvale. And I encourage you guys, if you want your kids to have safe routes to schools where kids are crossing those boundaries, get on that committee, get involved, because cities work in silos in the same way that school districts and cities work in silos. So the citizens really need to kind of push everybody together. Build a team. I can't emphasize enough how important that is. Okay. Questions?
So, for SRTS maps, you said Cupertino. Does that mean schools that are inside the city limits of Cupertino, or all Cupertino Union School District schools where the attendance areas encompass residents in Cupertino?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. And obviously, with our CUSD school district, we have 6 cities that are served. So people are crossing city boundaries to get to school. So we recognize that this is a problem. For right now, since this mapping process sort of started with our city staff, we're only doing it at schools that fall within our city boundaries, but we have been in constant communication with City of Sunnyvale, as well as CUSD School District, with Leslie Maines, working very closely to see how we can bring this exact same model to other cities and or groups that want to lead this effort, so that all schools such as Montclair or schools that fall out of the Cupertino district, but all schools, Cupertino Middle, that all schools that are around this area can have the same development. Yeah, and I'll pass it to Leslie for another comment.
There's a question over here, too.
So our complexity with Cupertino Middle is that we have kids coming from Cupertino, Sunnyvale, and Los Altos. And so we have agreement, which is great, from all 3 city entities to begin a mapping project, such as what Cupertino is doing. Our obstacle is the GIS map, and trying to figure out how do we then take that data and put it into a map. And so that's the one challenge that is that is currently that obstacle.
And I'm going to turn it over to our mayor for just a quick comment.
Thank you, Chelsea. I have a 4:30 appointment that I cannot be late for. Before I leave, I just wanted to add one thing. Yesterday at the City Council meeting, we did pass a brand new ordinance, and that is to allow children under the age of 12 to ride on the sidewalks. So that is I like that. She said yes. So that's really great. And if you're a parent riding with that child, that's totally okay too. But when you're coming back, don't be on the sidewalk, be on the bike lane on your way back from school. But it's something that we think will really encourage more middle schoolers and probably ride with their siblings. And the captain was also in the audience, and he also recommended that would be definitely a safe route for them to do. So, and one other, if I may add one other E-formation. Trickle-down information is really important, so please communicate as much as possible to all your friends and family and let them know. And I think we were just joined by 2 more commissioners. If you could raise your hands, David and Jennifer. Jennifer is with Bike Ped, David is with planning, and pick their brains because they know a lot. And Jennifer also sends a lot of information to schools, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Thank you very much. I need to go, and I think Jerry had a question. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone had a question over here? Okay.
One of the things that we grapple with here is a lot of these parents here are really invested in walking and biking to school, which is wonderful. But as you can see, it's a tiny percentage of the parents that are out there. What have you found how to reach those parents that maybe aren't as receptive? Did you find that the kids were the ones driving it, or did you actually have specific programs that you ran in the schools? Give us some ideas about things to do for that.
It is the whole package, and it built, as you can see, it built over time, right? It didn't happen. We did not get to 830 bicyclists a gun. I mean, you start in kindergarten. I mean, that, first of all, you start young. It's really important because what you're really doing is building a culture. It's not just about teaching skills. You are teaching kids to love bicycling. You are teaching parents to be confident in their child's competence, okay? That's so important. So this really is about getting parents out there so they can see what their kids are capable of on the street. And it's, Rosie has a comment here, and I don't want to miss it, because she's always so insightful.
No, Under Penny? Okay. Well, and you probably would have mentioned this already, so I'm sorry about this. But our mission is to get more families choosing to walk and ride their bike more often. And so I credit Kathy Durham, kind of our godmother of the Safe Routes to School Palo Alto movement, for framing it this way and referring to it as sort of a no-guilt approach. So this isn't about shaming or about, just only spotlighting, hardcore true believer parents that are like, drinking the Kool-Aid with safe routes to school. This is just about what little things can we do. Can you participate in Walk and Roll to School Day once a year and just be a part of that queue and get to see that? And so it slowly builds up over time. Your program's a year and a half old. And start with where you're at. And I mean, you saw the numbers did not grow overnight. It took time. But I think I think you're off to a great start.
Did anyone else have a question? Okay, I'm going to bring it back to you.
Thank you. I was wondering, with your statistics at the beginning of your presentation, the 30-year numbers, I was curious if you had numbers in correlation with incidences with pedestrians and cyclists with the more cars on the road. Did that increase then as well?
I'm going to let Rosie hit that one because she's from the city and more top of mind.
I will do my best to answer that. The answer comes from several national level public health presentations that have been covering this kind of question. When you have more families or children walking and biking on the road, does it increase the incidence of collisions? And the answer is multi-layered. They found that more bikers, more children riding their bikes, hosts a whole number of protective factors that increase longevity, the incidence of heart disease, chronic disease, diabetes, et cetera, as well as decrease the incidence of mental health related illnesses. So overall, from a public health perspective, getting more people out there and promoting active transportation helps people live longer. And, there is this fear, but it's kind of like, what Penny said, when you have people just kind of stuck in their car, what sort of residual issues come up there that may not be front and center, but, eventually over time, when they don't build up these healthy, active habits, start to present themselves. So that said, there is a slight increase in collisions with increased number of walkers. And you can, and what question?
That's not my question. I'm sorry for not being more clear.
Yeah.
So you have fewer walkers from 30 years ago,
right?
But and more automobiles. So with fewer walkers, you would assume then there are less incidences because there are less people walking. Mm-hmm. But do you have statistics that show the reverse of that? Because there are more.
Let me kind of address that. I think what you're getting at is crash rates. So because you're correct, when there were fewer pedestrians on the street, obviously you're going to have fewer collisions involving pedestrians. So what you don't look at an increase in the total number of crashes. What you would look at as an increase in a crash rate, right? So what you want to see over time is you don't want to see crash rates increasing at a faster rate than the number of pedestrians is going, faster than the rate of pedestrians is rising. I'm saying that wrong, but I think you follow me. Sorry. But long and short, in Palo Alto, we do watch collision data. And, if you're teaching your kids how to do this safely, if you have an increase in the number of bicyclists, you will see an increase in the number of bicycle collisions. But what you want to watch for is that the increase in collisions is not exceeding the number of bicyclists you have on the street, okay? Or the increase, right? And we've been able to, the crash rate is down a little. Not a lot, but a little. Yes?
As you get more bikers and walkers on the street, the drivers actually do behave better because they know that there are more eyes.
Oh, so true.
Alongside those bikers and walkers. And
Did everybody hear what she said? That is a huge
in the form
point.
of parents, teachers, administrators, the more people we get on our bikes and on our feet, the safer the other kids on their bikes and on their feet are, because the drivers are more aware, they're used to the BPAC traffic times, and sometimes the drivers will drive at a different time in order to avoid even having to deal with bikers and walkers, and frankly, that's the safest scenario for our children.
I agree.
But that being said, I would love to have you share with us the strategies that the Palo Alto Unified School District and your organization as part of that has to address this type of weather. because we have, our elementary school is very, very heavily bike and pedestrian oriented. But the moment our children go to middle school, they're crossing an expressway, a freeway, a creek bed. They're going through 3 city limits before they reach Cupertino Middle School. And the moment it's raining, we are more afraid for our children because of the way people drive when it's raining, that even if there's an ever so slight sprinkle, there is a fear that we don't know what the weather will be like come pickup time or come bike from home time. And at those times, we have even more congestion of people who are typically walkers and bikers being driven to and from school. And so pickup time is 3 o'clock. If you show up at our middle school at 2:30, you literally cannot find a place in the neighborhood to park to pick up your child.
There are so many strategies for this. Now, first of all, let me start by saying I grew up in upstate New York where it rains all the time. If it's not snowing, it's raining. And I walked and biked to school in that, so I have a little experience with this. And I have to say, too, that like when I moved to California, I was like so amazed at how everybody just kind of stopped doing everything when it rained. I get to drizzle, it's, y'all are kind of weather wimps, if you don't mind my saying. So there are a bunch of strategies for this. So like one thing that we do when the rainy season starts, well, there are a bunch of things that we do. One is before the rainy season starts, we start sending e-news messages out to parents reminding them to gear up. Kids do not melt in the rain. You can actually walk and bike in the rain. Rosie, and I want to say that Rosie and I watched this fabulous movie just a couple nights ago about kids in Japan. Do you know that in Japan, like every little kid who starts school gets a yellow backpack, a bright yellow backpack, like the color of a school bus, and a little hat that's also yellow, and they all walk to school. They have kids walking like little tiny kinders are walking like 2 or 3 miles to school on crazy streets with no sidewalks. And everybody watches out for them. There are parents and grandparents out on the streets helping the children cross streets. I mean, it's just a lovely movie. But anyway, and it's a fantasy for me right at the moment. But what I want to say about that is kids don't melt. They can walk in the rain. I mean, this is like a thing we need to remind our California parents. But we also need to remind them that you have to gear up for this weather, right? I mean, you put lights on your bike. You put a headlamp on. You make sure that the rain slicker your child's wearing is bright yellow. You make sure that you talk to your kids about the skills that they need to cross intersections when the street is wet. A car, when it's moving in the rainy weather, might not stop. So you need to wait that extra second to make sure that the car is stopped before you cross when it's rainy. These are skills. It's like everything else that we're talking about here. It's teaching. Right? We don't just accept that it's scary and hard. We teach our kids the skills they need to grow into independent adults who can walk in the rain. That's a good thing, right? So we want to do that. And then some other things that we do is we encourage people to create carpool buddies. Like we do see that there are families who are traveling longer distances, and honestly, it is kind of a hardship for some of them to travel a longer distance on the really, raining cats and dogs days. So we send out messages that encourage families to look for people on their school route, before the rain starts, and put a little text group together. And so on those days when it rains, you send out a text message and you quickly make an agreement in the morning. Okay, who's going to drive today? So instead of getting 3 or 4 cars on that crowded, congested arterial you're talking about, instead you get 1 with 4 kids in it. Good things, right? So there are a lot of things that we can do to change this stuff, and again, it's like multi-tiered things. It's education, it's encouraging people to try things, and sometimes it's putting a yellow hat on their head.
So we developed something which we didn't talk about in the presentation here, but there was a group process that came to. The Safe Routes to School partnership came together, and stakeholders came together and developed a 5-year plan for our program. So we have, year 1 goals and goals for years 2 through 5, and all of those goals are related to. All of those objectives are related to like 7 overall goals that we developed. And so in our current year, we're trying to make sure that our key materials are translated into Mandarin and Spanish. But we're always thinking about equity. Does the bike mobile come out here?
Yeah,
Chelsea?
so
Yeah.
we've had the Bay Area Bike Mobile is a free bike repair mobile service that offers bike repairs to all schools in the Bay Area. We've had them come out to a couple schools already. We had them come out to Sedgwick Elementary and Regnar Elementary this past fall, and they do have a cap on how often they can visit a city. So, we're hoping to get them back for spring, but no guarantees since they're pretty high in demand. We're also working on translating some of our program materials into multiple languages. So there's a few versions available online in different languages, but we're in the process of developing further.
Yeah. So equity can mean under-resourced, or it can mean working with people of various cultural backgrounds. But, as you could see, even from the stories in the room, everyone's got stories related to walking and biking to school when they were a kid. It is kind of beautiful the way that this conversation, how you got to school, transcends cultures and creates an opportunity for parents to connect with their children and share a value that they learned early on, or just be reminded of that value and all of the benefits that it offers. A couple good questions just came up, one about high school boundaries, one about 8th grade education. And I just want to mention that, this is a national movement. This is a regional movement. The Santa Clara County Health Department has an amazingly thriving Safe Routes to School program. And we have best practices all around the region. We like to think we're the best in Palo Alto. But the truth of the matter is, there are some things we provide, there are some things that we don't. But you know what? In San Francisco, they're rocking it. In Alameda County, they're rocking it. And in Santa Clara County, they're rocking it. In San Jose, they've got a great program, Cocoa for Carpools, that they've piloted with the high school kids. So while we may not have the answers up front and center, we can work regionally to answer this question about developing a map for students throughout the region who may have these, want to commute between cities. Or we can find that 8th grade curriculum. We don't have the answers to everything, but there's really a lot out there to take advantage of.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tim Wee. I'm a parent in the West Valley, Cupertino Middle School, and Homestead. And I'm also on the Sunnyvale Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission. And I really feel your pain about crossing boundaries, because we see these bike routes and pedestrian routes, they go and stop at city borders. And it's like, why don't they connect? So I'd really like to work with Cupertino, Santa Clara, San Jose, Los Altos to get things connected. I'm also the president of the Friends of Stevens Creek Trail. We're trying to get a trail through this area as well, so that people have an alternative to going on street. And one other note is I actually left my high-paying job at high tech, so I could actually devote myself full-time to improving our community locally, mainly with bicycling and with zero waste. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of you. Oh, thank you.
I'll go to Lonnie.
Hi, my name's Lonnie. I have 4 kids that go to 3 different schools in 3 different cities. So I feel your pain if you're talking about crossing neighborhood boundaries for schools. I have worked with the City of San Jose's walk and roll program for 4 or 5 years now, so I can definitely talk to you about San Jose. What I do like most recently is Chelsea's energy and bringing all these different agencies together. There's a lot of good synergy happening right now, having worked with Walk and Roll and Safe Routes for several years. I think what it's important to understand is that on the engineering side, the cities are responsible for that because it's their budget. So even though we're talking about different cities feeding into one school, such as Homestead, which is where I have 2 boys, Los Altos, Sunnyvale, Cupertino, all feeding into Homestead. We really do have to work with all 3 cities to get a safe route. And just because Chelsea's departments can't map it out for you, that doesn't mean that you as a parent can't work with the school to map something out for your own kids. And lastly, I want to introduce my daughter, Kemi, because she's been waiting patiently. In terms of encouraging kids, what we've been doing at Meyerholtz is we have a walk and roll program. You gonna hold that up? She can take it up to the front. So our walk and roll program, with the city, in partnership with the City of San Jose, our school has been walking once a week, and we have a walking school bus. And so our walking school bus leaders one of the walking school bus leaders wanted to make a banner so that the kids could hold it and walk to school. And so we have had a consistent school bus of about 20 to 25 kids walking every Wednesday from Calabasas Park to Meyer Holtz. And we also, much of what, like you were saying, we do hand out, we have a positive behavior incentive program, and we hand out our little bulldog bones for our kids once a month, depending on how many volunteers we have. But that's one of the things that we're doing. And at Cupertino Middle, we just started a walk and roll program with incentives once a month as well. So last month we had a raffle for gift cards. So there's a lot of stuff going on.
So that's amazing. I'm so glad you guys came. So I do just want to mention that we have to pretty much exit this room at right around 5. So if there's a couple more burning questions, we'll take them. And if you guys want to follow up, I will be outside, happy to talk to any of you. And truly, my job is to listen to each and every one of you. I don't leave emails unanswered. I don't leave calls unanswered. So get in touch with me, and we'll work together on this. If you want some answers from Palo Alto, we can get you guys in touch. Like, this is a collaborative effort, and we're all doing our best to get on the same page. So if you have more to talk to me about that in this meeting doesn't allow time for, just get in touch with me. My email is all over all of the handouts. So does someone have another question?
Thank you, sorry. I had a question for Palo Alto. You talked about incentivizing and educating, right? Do you also have some disincentives for, or discouraging or,
Disincentives, like the cost of parking lot,
cost of parking spaces. You talked mainly about high schools, right? What about middle school or even the elementary school, right? So I'm a parent of a kid who's going to elementary school, and I've been carpooling with my neighbors, but once in a while I see a lot of parents who are driving just one kid, right? So
great question. I think what you're saying is, besides just positive, and really the incentive is in the practice. We kind of discourage tchotchkes. Once they do it, they recognize the internal reward of walking and biking and active transportation as a whole. Traffic calming measures can be a big disincentive, because when you calm traffic, you slow down traffic. And so people in a car, at some point, like Penny said, it is shorter to ride your bike. It's less of a hassle. So the disincentive is just inherent in the practice of having to strap your kid in a car and drive to school. And the internal rewards are really high. Does that answer your question?
yes, but then the expectation is that every person, right, and every parent is morally realizing those disincentives. But most of the people, they don't see those things.
But it catches on. I mean, it's a critical mass. If 50% of our kids at Jordan, at JLS Middle School are riding their bikes, it just takes on a life of its own. Okay. It's no longer about selling it to the parents. It's what the kids want to do.
So this is culture change. Mm-hmm. This is what it's about. Okay, so when you get to a place, when you're in middle school in particular, what's the most important thing when you're in middle school? What your friends think, spending time with your friends, your friends. Do you want to have anything to do with your parents? No. Do you want to be strapped in a car with your parents? No. You want to be walking and biking to school. So yes, parents are key decision makers, but kids, when you get to a certain level, the parents, they're going to feel some pressure from their kids. And that's an important thing. I had an interesting conversation with a mom the other day, though, and this is not something that I normally do, but this mom was saying to me, her son was in 8th grade, and he's still being driven to school. And this is a kid who lives a mile away. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah. And I said, well, can I ask you to think about that for a minute? Think about what you're saying to him. All his friends, he wants to bike to school. All of his friends are biking to school. So what's the message that you're sending to him? You're not capable in the way that your friends are to bicycle to school. what is that message? And I'm like, have you ever thought about it that way? And I wouldn't normally say that to a parent, but like, 8th grade. And then I said, and so let's take that a year or two out. Like, he's not that far away from going to college. He's going to go away to college, right? Oh yeah. Okay. So when he goes to college, how's he going to get around? So the idea is to get parents to start thinking about what's next, because really that's our job. Really that's what we're trying to do here, right? We want our kids, we want to prepare them to walk away from us. That is our job. And this is the important piece of that job. This is a very important piece of that job, making sure they can walk away on a street and be safe, right?
I have one follow-up question. We talked a lot about schools, but right, so the kids in these cities, they do a lot of after-school activities, right? So my elementary kids, they go to after-school programs. Same with a lot of, I think, few middle school students. And weekends, Cupertino is crazy, right? You drive on Dianza, it's crazy. It's so much of traffic. It feels like a big day. So are you taking these programs to even activities beyond schools?
Oh, this is like a whole new level here. All right, so do we want to go there? Yeah? No? Yes? All right.
I think that's year 10, Chelsea.
Actually, we're working on that, and we're redoing our comprehensive plan right now. And all I will say is safe routes to parks is in our future. Safe routes to after-school destinations is in our future. The city's already talking about it, and it's integrated into the Parks and Rec portion of our draft comprehensive plan. So yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, and I hope Safe Routes continues to be in your future. Speaking of tech, one of the things that the late Steve Jobs said was that his dream was for his son to ride his bike to work as a doctor at Stanford. And that process begins in elementary school, those practices, those habits, and that's something we all want for our children, is to be self-reliant, be independent, be healthy, and use that to create a more forward-thinking and amazing community. So thanks so much for coming out today.
And I just kind of want to anecdotally add to that, just because I'm not so far removed from the college generation, that I didn't learn how to ride a bike. I didn't have bike education in school. I was driven everywhere, and I didn't start riding on streets until I had a job after college where I cared about the environment, so I wanted to ride a bike. So I went out there not knowing how to ride on streets, and it was terrifying. I still did it, but I learned the rules of the road on my own, and it really wasn't until I took classes to become a certified instructor and I got this job where I needed to teach people how to ride bikes and be responsible for people's lives, that I took it on myself to learn the rules of the road. And I really wish that that would have been integrated into my life a lot sooner, because I would have biked a lot more of my life. So just kind of giving that perspective from the student side, I'm not so far away from that. And I kind of just want to selfishly show this video that we've created for our program to end the note for the night. Last year, and I don't see Golda in the room, but Golda, okay. So Golda is a parent volunteer, a rock star who has helped me do a lot of filming for our Safe Routes to School program. So last year we interviewed a lot of different community members about their opinions on active transportation and why Safe Routes is important to them. So I just wanted to end the meeting with that. And if you could please fill out your questionnaire that's on your seat, that's very, very important. You can either leave it on your seat or just hand it to me on the way out. And thank you all for coming.
I like to bike to school because
I like to bike to work because active transportation is really important to me because
I usually bike to school because
so I like to walk to work because
once I start biking and the breeze is hitting my face, it really makes me awake.
Well, for one thing, I like walking.
One of the big advantages I see of biking or walking is
my health. It kind of keeps me in shape. It's my workout.
It's good for the environment.
Making new friends, feeling the fresh air, seeing the new flower blooming.
As a PE teacher, being physically fit is very, very important in my life, and I'm trying to get the children to understand how important it is for their life.
I feel like it gives me a fresh start in the morning.
It helps me with my energy level. I can get my energy level up.
Biking to school helps me focus a lot more. By the time I get to my first class, then I'm not all tired and like I can't pay attention in school while I'm really energized and ready to learn.
That part's not important.
To create life
all said at the
habits that are, healthy for not only themselves but for the environment.
It's all benefit. There's really no downside to taking alternate forms of transportation.
So it'll be great if we can all make little bit effort to just get out of the car and get on the bikeway or the walkway.
I love walking, biking, scooting to school.
As each generation of students and of course parents, as they bring their kids to school, it's really important for us to educate the community.
Because as you know, we live in a very urban and dense environment, and roads aren't getting any wider. We're having to make some real serious considerations for how we commute.
And hopefully through further education, kids will be able to see the importance of getting to school on their own.
And we have to provide a safe way to get kids to school so that we can convince people that the car option is not the only option.
And ideally, we would like to have all the kids walking or riding.
If I start looking at alternate ways of transportation, there are healthier ways of getting around. And it's really a matter of trying it.
You can walk, you can bike, there's a lot of different things that you can do to make this happen.
I think that kids are now thinking about how can I do this differently?
And hopefully, by the time the kids are in kindergarten now, by the time they're in 12th grade, it just becomes second nature.
I think it is pretty important for our school to include bike safety and education into our school time.
Anything to make that safer is a great initiative.
Traffic is everywhere, and it's just a pain to get anywhere. A car doesn't seem like it's that big of an advantage. In fact, a car just seems like it's one of those things you have to do.
And it's really important that we just continue to keep pushing and not settle for one time.
And that's all we need, just little nudges here and there.
I think we all would like to have healthy lifestyles.
Parents walking with their kids, or kids just walking or biking to school.
I hope that we're going to see more people getting themselves to school and fewer people getting dropped off in single cars.
It'll be beautiful.
By developing this program, we're able to focus on not only general city transportation, but also a lot of the travel that is to and from school, which makes up a lot of our city travel, so that we can all come together and understand our traffic patterns and reduce them collectively.
My name's Andrew Murray, and I'm the physical education teacher. I've been coaching cross country, track and field, and wrestling since 1998 here at Kennedy.
Hi, my name's Anisha Nema, and I'm 13 years old, and I go to Miller Middle School in San Jose, California.
My name is Alex Wyckoff. I'm an environmental program specialist for the City of Cupertino.
I'm David Greenstein. I'm a teacher at Monte Vista, and I teach computer science and I teach math.
I'm Julia Roberts, and I teach math and martial arts at Cupertino High School.
Hi, I'm Neil Unsel.
Hi guys, I'm Natasha Nema. I'm 17 years old, just turned 17 in March. I'm a senior at Lindbergh High School, so I'm repping my school. Woo!
My name is Rajiv Nema. I live in this beautiful area for the last 4 years.
My name is Chelsea Biklen. I'm the Safe Routes to School Coordinator for the City of Cupertino. And I promise none of that was scripted. So thank you all for coming. This has been a really great discussion, and I hope we can continue this in the future.